and welcome to the little mini vlog. It's Jem here and Baxter. Baxter. How are you guys? How's your week been? Please tell me. Weekly check-ins. I think I haven't said this for a while, but I used to do weekly check-ins when I was in therapy, and it's like a good opportunity to kind of evaluate the week and think about what you've been doing, think about things you could change or improve, or maybe you've had a really positive week and you kind of want to cling on to that. Let me know how you are getting on. So today's video, I'm going to be talking about forgiveness. And why am I talking about forgiveness when we're talking about mental health? Well, I think sometimes what happens is things happen in our past or present, and people can hurt us, traumatize us, abuse us, neglect us, or just kind of piss us off. We then get to a point where we've got a lot of anger, we've got a lot of deep-rooted anger against this person or group of people, and we then end up carrying this anger around with us, when what we could be doing, what we need to be doing, what would be good for us, healthy for us, is to learn to forgive. But what does forgiveness mean? Oh, sorry, no, linking this to mental health, if we're carrying this anger around, it can come out in other ways. And I think it can kind of build up over time and make us poorly, make us more stressed, make us more prone to anger, outbursts, because we're carrying this around. And if we want to have better mental health and improve on ourselves through our recovery, forgiveness is one of the ways we can do that. What is forgiveness? I've taken this from, I think, Google or Wikipedia, but it's kind of like, we kind of know what forgiveness is, but I want to define it. So apologies for looking down. Psychologists define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment, anger, or vengeance towards a person or group that has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness or not. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, nor does it mean condoning or excusing offences. When we don't forgive, we carry this around with us, which is bad for our health and good mental health and physical health, and can also impact those around us. So maybe you've been hurt, maybe you've been traumatized, if you've been abused, neglected, raped, experienced any kind of trauma, you're going to be kind of thinking, I can't forgive that person. Now, I'm not expecting you guys to tell me your traumas, but if you have experienced something and it's made you get to a point where you kind of can't forgive that person, then maybe kind of share that with other people in the community, because I know from my experience that I have struggled with forgiveness based on things that have happened to me in my past. Now, one positive thing that I have experienced in the last kind of few years is developing a relationship with my dad. Now, when I was younger, he wasn't like abusive or anything like that, but he had a temper on him and he was prone to sort of anger outbursts. He was also quite passive aggressive, and kind of as a child I picked up on this, and for years and years I was angry at my dad for kind of the behaviour that the behaviour of him in the house and with my mum and with us kids. But luckily, through therapy, I have got to a point with my dad where I have forgiven him, and it is kind of like amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And don't get me wrong, my dad wasn't a terrible dad. He, like I say, he had a temper, but it wasn't hugely traumatic. It wasn't like seriously damaging to me. I do think I picked up a lot on it, and I think I've become quite an angry person because I've learnt his angry behaviour. But I have got to a point with him now where I can be around him and not be angry. And it's interesting because when Andy and I first got together, the first time he met my dad and my mum, they're not together, but when he first met my dad, he picked up on my behaviour around my dad and how rude I was to him, and that I would snap at him and kind of be stroppy with him. And Andy would kind of say, why are you so angry at your dad? And I was like, am I? He's like, you're really rude to him. Like, he's trying to be nice to you and you're being rude. And I was like, really? So it kind of like shocked me. I was shook. Yeah, no, it kind of like surprised me. I could sort of took a step back and was kind of like, really? Am I being like that? And I was kind of thinking, actually, I've been angry with him for a long time. And I think probably longer than I'd realised, and probably more intensely than I realised. And I started to think, how am I ever going to have a relationship with him that means something, that is good for both of us? And I remember being in therapy, and my friend was talking about her dad, and he was a lot worse than my dad. Like he wasn't a good guy. And she said that she had managed to forgive her father through therapy and kind of coping with it and understanding it and working her way through it. And I talked about talking therapies last week, and that is a benefit. You know, we can talk out things and we can let go of things. But she said that she got to a point where she'd forgiven him, and I was like, how did you do that? And she said it took time, and I'm going to go through a couple of things that we can do to kind of move through that kind of transition to forgiving someone. But I was blown away by it, and I thought, if she can forgive her dad, who was far more damaging to her than my dad was, I thought, I've got to, rebuild this relationship with my dad. And now I'm there, I'm more, we get on more, we have a laugh together. I've been helping him like upload videos to YouTube, and it's just, I've got to a place where I can be happy around him. And I wanted to get to that point because so many years of being angry, and we're very lucky if we still have parents in our lives. And I was thinking, he's going to be getting older, and one day he's not going to be here, and then it's going to be too late, and I would have been angry all this time. And carrying this anger around is really, really bad. I just want to find this quote, which now I can't find. I found it. So this is from simplerecovery.com. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one that gets burned. And that's what I was doing. And that's probably maybe what you guys are doing, or what you have done, is carrying this around with the intent of throwing it. But actually, in the whole time, you're just burning your hands. You're burning yourself. So it's not actually you're not doing anything with this anger apart from damaging yourself and not allowing yourself to have a healthy kind of state of mind, healthy well-being. So I have forgiven my dad, but there are people in my life that things that I've gone through that I am still trying to get to a point where I can forgive. And this is when my experience, a trigger warning, I am going to be talking about something that's kind of could be triggering to people. So I just want to say that I'm going to be talking about rape. And my experience of rape was one of my boyfriends. He raped me, and I've still not forgiven him for that. And I also experienced a date rape, and I've not forgiven that chap for that either. I've also, over the years, not been able to forgive myself for things that I've done, especially in my younger years. A lot of stuff that I'm carrying around towards myself, and that comes out in things such as self-harm. So the things that I've experienced, the traumas that I've experienced, I'm still carrying them around with me because I haven't been able to forgive. I just want to read another quote here, also taken from Simple Recovery. Forgiveness isn't about being happy with what happened in your past. It's about accepting that it did happen, moving on from it for your own health and happiness, so that you don't carry the pain of the past in your heart any longer. Easier said than done. I'm sure you guys, and like I say, I'm sorry if you have experienced extreme trauma or neglect or abuse, or just a simple thing. If someone has said something and it's pissed you off, you're unlikely to forgive them, but you're just carrying around that hot coal with the intent of throwing it at them, and you're not really progressing or moving forward. So it's important that we learn to forgive, and then your body and mind becomes more open to this transformation. So I'm going to go through a few things that 5 steps to forgiveness. I've taken this from the Huffington Post website, but there are loads of things online for steps to forgiveness. I just found this one quite as a good example because it kind of resonated with me, but it might not resonate with you. So if it doesn't, I'm sorry, but there are things out there that you can kind of go through these steps, or there's another website with 10 steps to forgiveness. So have a look and see which one works for you. This is the one I've wanted to talk about. Excuse me for reading off the laptop. Like I say, before I go into these steps, it is not easy to forgive. It is hard, especially if it's something that is enormously damaged you in some way. But also, I remember when I was working, if someone pissed me off, I would get angry, and I'd internalize that anger, and I never kind of was assertive enough to kind of say, hey, this is why did you do this? And then I would never forgive that person, and then I'd always have this fractious relationship with them. So it's not easy, and whether it be something small or really big, these steps can be applied. So let's go through them. Apologies in advance that this might be a long video, but I'm hoping that the things we talk about will enable other people to kind of open up about their experience, only if you feel comfortable, and to help others that maybe are struggling to forgive. Right, enough introduction of that. So 5 steps to forgiveness. Number 1, identify why you have been struggling to forgive. So have you kind of and maybe let's use a light example for this. So we're not triggering anyone. So say your friend has said something and it's pissed you off. Let's go with that, because that's quite a common thing, and some of us may find it hard to forgive them. So identify why you've been struggling to forgive. Have you been making yourself the victim? I don't like that word. I'm using it because that's what they're saying, but I think if you have been an experience of trauma, you are a survivor. Victim, I think, carries a lot more connotations, but I think what they're trying to say here is, are you making it all about their fault and nothing to do with you? Again, this could be, let's relate this to someone saying something that's pissed you off. Personally, I think if you have been abused or raped or badly treated, then I would say you're well in your right to say that the blame is on that person. However, I want to just say as a side note, people who abuse have been abused themselves and know, and that is how they see the world, and that's how they understand the world. So we need to kind of take that into consideration. I'm not excusing anybody for treating anyone poorly, rape, abuse, whatever. I'm not condoning it, but I'm just saying that there is often a reason behind that person's behaviour. But let's go back to your friend said something and it's pissed you off. Have you been putting the other person on a pedestal? Maybe they were, and they said something, and now you've knocked them down. Maybe that's happened. Have you been putting yourself on a pedestal? Have you been feeling guilty about things that happened in your past relationship? Has this guilt kind of made you more angry towards this person? Have you been blaming the other person? Maybe they said this thing, but did that come from something else that had happened? What's the kind of story behind it? Think about all the factors that identify why you have been struggling to forgive. Number 2, be willing to forgive. This is probably one of the hardest parts. We often see forgiveness as something that is challenging to do. But it's actually one of the most important things we need to think about, is having that willingness to forgive. Because if we're saying that friend said something, he or she has pissed me off, I know why I can't forgive them, but actually, do I want to forgive them? Probably not. Or maybe you think, do you know what? Give them the benefit of the doubt. Could I forgive them? Can I have that willingness? When there is a willingness for change to occur, it is more likely that it's going to happen. So we've got that willingness. We're sort of saying, I've identified it, I've got the willingness, then we're more open to it. If we're shutting that down, we're not going to be open to that possibility, that kind of other perspective. So be willing to forgive. If we are holding on to our past hurt and unwilling to forgive for whatever reason, we will continue to find ourselves stuck in a place of suffering. So having that willingness to forgive. Number 3, release it. Let it go. Sorry, serious. Release it. Once you have identified why you've struggled to forgive and have a willingness to forgive, the only thing to do is simply let it go. I think actually this is probably, they're all hard. All of this is hard. None of this is easy. And it might be that you have to go through therapy, some sort of talking therapy or relationship counselling, something like that, that will allow you to kind of have that willingness and then to say, I'm going to let it go. This may not resonate with you, so I'm just kind of giving you examples, but hopefully it will work for you. Release it into the universe. And that's what I've done with my dad. I through therapy, I identified why I wasn't forgiving him. I then had that feeling that, hey, he's not going to be around forever. He's not perfect. He had a terrible upbringing. So actually, if I have that willingness to forgive him, I'm open to having a different relationship with him that is healthier and happier for both of us. Number 4, trust that healing will occur. If you're no longer carrying it around with you, that hot coal that you're waiting to throw at someone, you're actually opening up the possibility to allow for healing. You're not carrying it around. You've released it. You've let it go. And now you can allow yourself to heal. I'm just going to read this little bit. Again, this is taken from Huffington Post. I'm not saying Huffington Post are like the gurus on mental health. I just did a bit of research and found loads of different places to find tips on how to forgive. And like I say, this one seemed simple, straightforward, and an easy thing to explain. But again, it's hard to apply these things. It takes time and that willingness. I don't know why I tapped on the table. Sorry guys, long video. So once we release it, we may find ourselves going into a bit of a panic in our minds. We may start having thoughts of like, what if this doesn't work? How is this going to work? But maybe that we don't feel any different. These are merely fear-based thoughts created from our ego, which is the cause of our struggle to experience happiness, joy, and love to begin with. So trust and have faith that a shift will happen. So your friend has pissed you off. They've said something. You've identified why you're struggling. You've had the willingness to forgive. You've released that anger. You've let it go. And now you're kind of thinking, so they've annoyed me and I've let it go. But actually, has anything changed? Does that person realise they were wrong? And these things will kind of get in the way of our own happiness. So we need to kind of trust that the healing will occur once we have released the anger inside of us. Number 5, be open for healing. Once we are in a place of trusting that a shift in our perception will happen, we must be open to receive it. So be an observer. Pay close attention to things that come up for you in your day-to-day life. Make a note of people you see, the things that people say, the songs that you hear on the radio, the ideas that pop into your head, and how you feel emotionally throughout the day. By being an observer of ourselves and our own experience, we are able to be aware when healing occurs. So it's about being mindful, understanding what we're doing. And with this friend, we can kind of say, I'm an observer. I am observing my life. I'm taking into account and taking responsibility for the things I do, the things I say. And actually that kind of makes me more open to healing, more open to kind of allowing that person that pissed us off to kind of say, that's them, that's their issue. I can take control of myself. I can be mindful in my day-to-day life and allow healing to occur. Now, you may think that all of these points are absolute rubbish. I'll chuck that piece of paper. Please let me know your thoughts. If this video has triggered anyone in any way, I'm sorry. If it's pissed anyone off, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to simplify forgiveness, although those steps do sound like I am. I'm not saying it's easy. I can't stress this enough, that forgiveness is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And as I said earlier, I have still not forgiven the men who raped me, and I have still not forgiven myself for things that I've done in the past. I'm hoping that with my current talking therapy sessions with my wonderful counsellor, that I can get to a point where I am forgiving of those men and myself. So I don't expect anyone to forgive straight away. I'm not saying that after you've watched this video and heard me say, oh, Jenna's forgiven her dad, so I can forgive. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not. I'm just saying that if we break it down and go through some of the steps that I've suggested, there is that possibility for healing to occur. Thank you for watching. Sorry it's been a long one. I thought it would be, because I knew that I would not stop talking, and shocker, I have not. I hope you guys are okay. Apologies if this has triggered anyone, and again, apologies if this has pissed anyone off. I'm not trying to simplify forgiveness. I'm just saying that it is possible. Take care, you beautiful people. Welcome to my new subscribers. Thank you all for all your comments, for subscribing, for just being in the community. It's so good to talk to you guys every week, and I'm really trying to get my head around stuff and try and get back to social media and things like that. So watch this space. Take care, lots of love. Bye from Baxter, who's been such a good boy. Haven't you? Yes. Take care, guys. See you soon. Love you. Bye.